Who is the world's best action movie star of all time? Today we're going to find out by pitting the 8 best high-octane heroes against each other in a tournament across 3 rounds. Our winner will have to defeat the others with higher box office takings, a better critical score, and in the final, a higher audience score as well. Let's get straight into the first battle. Both of these action stars are 2 of the highest earners in Hollywood history, but which of them wins out when put against the other? We'll find out soon, but this might look a bit of a mismatch in terms of stature. The Rock stands at 6 foot 4 inches tall, and Tom Cruise doesn't stand tall. The Rock weighs in at 260 pounds, which is around 100 pounds heavier than his lightweight opponent, but none of that matters here. The only size that matters in this face-off is the respective stacks of box office takings from the movies they've been seen in. Neither is a stranger to money. Despite a ropey start to his acting career in The Mummy Returns, featuring some of the worst CGI in movie history, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was the highest paid debutant actor at the time, netting a cool $5 million paycheck for his role. This has since been overtaken by another sports star turned actor, Conor McGregor, for his part in Roadhouse. And he wasn't even transformed into an unconvincing scorpion. Cruise has his own records when it comes to people showing him the money. Show me the money! He has his own Guinness World Record with 8 consecutive movies to gross over $100 million. The movies were Jack Reacher, Oblivion, Edge of Tomorrow, Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, Jack Reacher, Never Go Back, The Mummy, American Made, and Mission Impossible Fallout. If you're curious, I'll save you the maths. That's just over $3 billion. Well done, Tom. Like his attitude to exercise, The Rock is hardly a slouch when it comes to getting moviegoers to part with their cash, collectively bringing in billions and billions of dollars to happy studios in Hollywood. But out of the 2, which has made the most? Cruise's films have collectively grossed over $12.7 billion worldwide. Top Gun Maverick alone earned approximately $1.5 billion globally, roughly the same amount as the country of Samoa. The Rock might be a demigod around those parts, but he's never had a film break the $1 billion mark with him as the lead. With that being said, Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, came close, and its sequel earned $800 million. So this fight is not as clear-cut as it might seem. In fact, The Rock's movies have made just over $7 billion, so ordinarily this would probably get him through to the next round. But he's up against Mr. Impossible himself. Unfortunately for Dwayne, as far as we're concerned, he's going straight to rock bottom. Cruise has a semi to look forward to. 2 of the original action heroes now, with the Terminator against Rambo. This rivalry has been around for decades, since the 2 were assigned the same table at the 34th Golden Globe Awards, where Stallone's Rocky had been nominated for 6 categories, but lost out in all but one of them, while Schwarzenegger won the New Star of the Year award with Stay Hungry. It didn't help that Arnie laughed at Stallone when Rocky lost one award after the other. Finally, when Rocky won Best Motion Picture for a drama, the Italian stallion got his revenge by throwing a load of flowers towards the Austrian. It's not the kind of weapon you'd associate with these 2, but real life is often not like the movies. Over several years, the 2 would do their fighting behind the ink of newspapers and play out a Cold War that Rocky IV would be proud of. Speaking of which, the villain in that movie, Ivan Drago, a robotic, muscular villain with a strange accent, is thought to have been a parody of a certain other actor. I'll let you guess who. As is often the case with feuds, it took a common goal to have these 2 make up. In this case, it was the fact that both of their careers were starting to go down the pan in the 90s. This prompted a team-up, and we're used to seeing the 2 act together in the Avengers for Old Action Heroes franchise, The Expendables, but which of these 2 earned their respective studios enough expendable cash to burn? In terms of action movie dollars, they're very much the old money of our contenders today, but seeing as they're facing off against each other, inflation shouldn't have too much of an impact. There might be around 1 million Rocky films, so this has meant that Sly's box office income is around $900 million with this franchise alone. That must be enough to buy Adrian a decent pet. If you add in the Rambo films and the Expendables, you can see how he's managed to take around $4 billion at the box office. But just like in the Rocky movies, this is a close fight. The Governator in 1991 alone racked up $500 million just for the culture-defining Terminator 2.
Hasta la vista, baby.
And overall, he's brought in $5.3 billion for Hollywood to reinvest back into Botox.
You got a little more work done, huh? Just a little bit, just a tweaking, maintenance.
It's Arnie that terminates the competition this time around and goes through to our semi-finals. But we still have 4 more stars to cut down to 2 and complete our semi-final lineup. And in the process, we'll also reveal which of them is a surprisingly massive role-play board game nerd. It's a good job that this next battle isn't based on earnings, because Keanu Reeves likes to give most of his away. He gave away $75 of the $126 million earned on The Matrix to behind-the-scenes workers, who he felt made the movie a success. For The Matrix Reloaded, Keanu gifted Harley-Davidson motorcycles to each of the 12 stuntmen as a token of appreciation for their hard work and dedication. And he once gave $20,000 to a member of the Matrix crew who was struggling financially during the holiday season. If you work in the movies, you'd be queuing up to work with Ted. But this battle isn't based on that, it's about the box office, and that's a place where Reeves dominates. And surprisingly, from a man who's famous for not displaying a huge amount of emotion on screen, he's done this across several genres, from comedy through to tragedy, particularly including dogs. Bruce Willis is no stranger to tragedy, but he's most well known for having a gun during the festive period.
I have a machine gun. Ho, ho, ho.
He's also known for an improvised phrase which we won't repeat here for fear of angering the YouTube gods. But although Die Hard propelled him to action stardom, Willis wasn't first choice for the role. In fact, two of our stars from the last battle were, alongside Harrison Ford. Willis was known at the time from the comedy drama TV show Moonlighting and raised a few Hollywood eyebrows. This was pre-plastic surgery when they could still do that, when he was cast and paid $5 million for the privilege. Now we know the gamble paid off, and he made the leap from romantic TV lead to action hero, and once that was done, there was no turning back. 4 more Die Hard movies and $1.4 billion grossed just from these movies alone, and it seems like Moonlighting was a very long time ago. But Keanu is no stranger to money-churning franchises. The Matrix and John Wick are the cow that keeps on getting milked. And there are 8 movies to choose from, just from these franchises alone. And that's not forgetting Speed, or to give it its real title,
The Bus That Couldn't Slow Down.
This classic made $350 million back in 1994, and since then, Keanu has had 2 decades to pump out smash hit after smash hit, totaling $4 billion overall. It also helped that he dodged the bullet of potential banana skin that was Speed 2. This is all a tough act for Bruce to follow, but thanks to starring in an amazing 76 movies, he manages it with $5.2 billion. That means our favourite adventurer, joins Tom Cruise and Arnold Schwarzenegger in the semi-finals. But who will be the last to join them? Let's find out. It's the battle of the Boldies now, and 2 stars who are very much still at the height of their ridiculous action-fronted careers. Statham didn't have the most orthodox route to becoming a big screen bruiser. Back in the day, he was more into hair removal than body removal. That's because he was an elite-level diver. He competed on the British national diving team for 12 years and was even seen at the World Championships. Hopefully a rival didn't inject him with a poison that would kill him if his heart rate dropped. In contrast with jumping from a platform in only Speedos, Statham also practiced kickboxing and jiu-jitsu. And then he also modelled in not much more than Speedos again. This all turned him into a real-life man of action who was spotted by director Guy Ritchie. This transformed him into the hardman actor that we all know today, using his diving skills to get up close and personal with a giant shark. Statham might not be in the megastar bracket that we've seen with other actors we've looked at here, but he's definitely a cult hero, with franchises like The Transporter, Crank, and of course, like most of the others on this list, The Expendables. Vin Diesel is, funnily enough, not the actor's real name. It's Mark Sinclair, but that doesn't look as good on a poster. Like Statham, he also had a strange route onto the stage. At the age of 7, he broke into a theatre with a friend with the intent to smash it up. I'm not sure why, but we've all had that feeling when studying Shakespeare. Instead, they were caught by the theatre's artistic director, who gave them roles in the upcoming show instead of calling the police. Rather than opting for prison like a lot of people would, he enjoyed it and continued acting. Also, another surprising thing about Mr. Diesel is that he's a massive Dungeons & Dragons nerd, and even wrote a foreword for a book celebrating 30 years of the game. Both of these actors are massive draws when it comes to the big screen, but which has the shinier bank balance to go with their shiny head? As expected, most of Vin Diesel's box office comes from the Fast and Furious franchise, and considering there are about 50 of these movies, it's not to be sniffed at. We've chosen to leave out any movies that include him voicing Groot because saying 3 words,
I am Groot,
isn't exactly fair. This leaves us with a total for Diesel of $4.6 billion. Not bad indeed. Statham is very much the wild card in this contest, and it's a tall order for him to compete, but thanks to the works of art including The Meg 2, The Trench, and Crank High Voltage, he's brought in close to $2 billion as a leading man. This means Fast and Furious Vin Diesel completes our semi-final lineup, and now we have Arnold Schwarzenegger versus Bruce Willis and Tom Cruise versus Vin Diesel, fighting over our next category, critical acclaim. Good luck, Vin. Keep watching to see how one critic described his, let's say, limited acting skills. Seeing as I'm now looking at critical acclaim, or critical pastings depending on the movies, these guys have got to be decent actors as well as decent shots with pretend guns. Arnold didn't get off to a great start here when at the age of 22 he starred in Hercules in New York. Didn't exactly get his chance to shine here as he was overdubbed.
Let me be the judge of that. I'm tired of the same old faces, the same old thing.
Let me be the judge of that. I am tired of the same old faces, the same old things.
Which critics latched onto. The Washington Post described it as a comedy to laugh at rather than with, but Arnold was able to slowly win people over with his robotic acting style by playing a robot. The casting director was the real hero when it came to the Terminator, and this movie launched Schwarzenegger into action movie royalty. He even managed to win over people with comedies in the late 1980s and 90s with films like Twins and Kindergarten Cop. Critics and audiences alike were left entertained as well as confused by his comedic timing and ability to parody his tough guy image. But as the 90s rolled on quicker than a child walking the dog with a yo-yo, the Austrian Giant, or more precisely, the movies he was in, started to get panned. Films like 1993's Last Action Hero and Batman and Robin received negative reviews, and that's an understatement for the latter. Writing for the Star Tribune, Jeff Strickler attacked its almost embarrassingly mundane dialogue and called Schwarzenegger wasted in the role of Mr. Freeze, and his character drably written. So it's harsh to say the actor was at fault here, more his agent's attitude to say yes more enthusiastically than Meg Ryan in When Harry Met Sally.
Yes! Yes!
Willis is also no stranger to mixed reviews. When you've made more movies than a small country, then some of them aren't going to go down well. Die Hard, of course, was met with rave reviews. The actor got extra points for his relatability and wit. Now, thanks to him, we all know
what a TV dinner feels like.
But Willis did have a direct-to-video phase later on in his career, so much so that in 2021, the Razzie Awards came up with a new category: Worst Performance by Bruce Willis in a 2021 movie. These were the kinds of movies that the filmmakers didn't look like they wanted to make, and that Willis definitely didn't look like he wanted to be in. The same trend was seen in the Die Hard franchise. The first three films, Die Hards 1, 2 and With a Vengeance, received positive reviews, but the latter two had mixed to negative receptions, with critics quick to spot a decline in quality and a shift towards more over-the-top action. With such a mix of movies between these two stars, it's going to be difficult to call a winner, but looking at the average Rotten Tomatoes scores across their most notable action flicks,
there can be only one.
Schwarzenegger first, and ranging from 100% positive score on The Terminator through to 11% on End of Days, we're left with an average of 62.3%. With Willis, his best score is 94% on Die Hard, and his worst is 15% on A Good Day to Die Hard. Overall, he's more consistent, but unfortunately for him, more consistently mediocre, which leads to an average score of 51.9% and another win for Arnie. So he'll
be back
in the final. These two have had very different careers. For example, as far as I know, Cruise never tried to smash up a theatre, but he did get kicked out of the priesthood for being a rebel. Have a look at our video on that after this one. Let's not mess around here, critics love Cruise, assuming those critics are not his ex-wives. The Mission Impossible films are among Cruise's most critically acclaimed action movies. Writers particularly loved the fact that he almost offers himself in films by doing things like hanging onto a plane, scaling the Burj Khalifa, and performing a high-altitude, low-opening jump out of a plane. They also like the fact that he can act in things. Vin Diesel, take note. For Edge of Tomorrow, he was praised for blending humour, vulnerability, and action prowess, while also creating a reliable and dynamic character. And for Collateral, he got plaudits for his intensity and departure from his usual heroic roles. He also excelled in looking like a silver fox as well, but I don't think they picked up on that. Add to that the fact that he's a pro at combining drama and action with performances in movies like Minority Report and War of the Worlds. Speaking of which, there's a movie featuring one of our actors we look at in the final that gets a huge audience score of 8.5 out of 10 for similar reasons. I'll reveal what it is soon. Now, despite the popularity of Cruise and electric cars at the moment, it's not all bad news for Diesels. Because Vin also likes to do his own stunts, he gets extra credit for this as well, but unsurprisingly, reviewers sometimes point out that Diesel's roles can be limited in emotional depth. Entertainment Weekly once wrote, Vin Diesel's performance is more wooden than commanding. No Best Actor Oscar for Diesel then. But to give credit, it's quite hard to showcase that kind of range when you're driving in between two buildings. So should we put him out of his misery, or who knows? Maybe there are some sleeper hits that Diesel has under his driving gloves to unleash on Cruise. Let's find out. Over Cruise's most notable action movies, Mission Impossible Fallout tops the list with a score of 97%, and The Mummy brings the score down with just 15% despite its huge box office we looked at earlier. This leaves him with an average score of 69.8%, which is going to be tough to beat. The Fast and the Furious movies actually have some strong offerings here, with Diesel's most acclaimed movie Furious 7 getting 81%, and the sixth installment receiving a not too shabby 70%. But flops like The Last Witch Hunter's 15% and Babylon AD's horrific 11% mean that Diesel's average is pulled down to just 36.1%. So as expected, Cruise smashes his way into the final against Mr. Universe. Who will win? You decide. This is going to come down to the audience score. Both of these stars are hugely loved by people all over the world, and both have dominated their respective eras. Back when Arnie was in his prime in the 80s and early 90s, Cruise was better known for dramatic roles. When Schwarzenegger abdicated his action hero crown to pursue a real crown of power in politics, Cruise stepped it up a notch with the stunts and blockbuster production. But which back catalogue does the audience prefer? Well, Cruise's performance in Top Gun famously helped lead a Navy recruitment drive, with 24% of recruits saying they'd been influenced by the movie. Its sequel has been a worldwide phenomenon, with audiences loving the nostalgic nods and modern updates, and then those iconic moments we all remember. Although it's not an action flick, how many people have screamed the line, "Show me the money!" from Jerry Maguire? I know I have, which is why I'm not allowed in the bank anymore. But Arnold is one of the most popular figures in Hollywood history. He sees your "show me the money" and raises you and I'll be back. Predator taught us all how to turn a handshake into an arm wrestle, not to mention how to deliver the most efficient instruction on getting to a helicopter.
Get to the chopper!
There are too many culture-defining Arnie moments to name, so let's get straight into the result. Looking at 15 notable Tom Cruise action movies, there's a consistently high IMDb score of above 6 out of 10, with Top Gun Maverick maxing out at a massive 8.4. Cruise's average score across them all is a very healthy 7.25, a very good marker for Arnold to follow. And if anyone's up to the challenge, it's him. His top movie score just beats Cruise's with 8.5 for Terminator 2, and just like Cruise, his action flicks are consistently liked. But crucially, his overall score is 6.73. This means that Tom Cruise wins the final and is our ultimate action movie hero.